coming out from RoughNeX, and it will be LeBlanc and Cassidon from the team of N Faculty.
All right, so again, fairly similar bans in some cases, although Cassidon this time is going to be eliminated, so they don't have to worry about Perks. Although it was actually the other way around, wasn't it? Perks was playing on GSI. But still, Cassidon's a very strong champion. Steve potentially going for the Irelia again to play it in the last game to very strong effect. It was certainly one of the resounding reasons they were able to snowball that game and eventually finish it off. But again, they were a bit nervy for me in that first matchup.
Yeah, agrees. And as the first game of the tournament as well, you can kind of forgive them now being nervous. And plus, we're in a different environment for these players, right? This isn't at home. This isn't an online tournament. This is live on the stage in the DreamHack Hall with all these people watching. It's just not a scenario that they're used to, and they only have a couple minutes to set up as well. This is not the same setup they'll have, not the same chair, but they'll have at least some of the peripherals to make them feel a little bit more at home.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that is a very important thing to mention, that you're not just playing in your bedroom or whatever the case may be. You're taken out of your comfort zone here. You're in front of a crowd, as you can see with some of the shots that we've been given. So there is a bit of pressure on the shoulders of these players, as we're seeing that Kale and Lulu have both been picked up here from Faculty.
They have. So they did lock in that Irelia. They spent a little bit of time hovering over that, but that's definitely what they wanted. Performed very well in the first game. No reason to break what's not broken. So what we did see banned out in the first game was Kale, and is now picked up in this one. We mentioned the Runan's Hurricane build that we've been seeing recently, along with the Nash's Tooth and a plethora of different items you can throw into the mix, but it's very, very strong. Tons of damage, basically, when you get into the later and latter parts of the game. Lulu, we saw in the last game, is kind of one of those champions who supports the rest of the team really well, but isn't like the big playmaker by themselves. Has to have the rest of the team doing well to really perform. But if the rest of the team is doing well, you know, your potential is way more of like any other mid-support champion you could pick up.
Now, interestingly enough, Cedrian's second most played AD carry is Jinx. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Kale and Lulu is great synergy with Jinx because of the fact that they got so many ways to protect her and keep her alive in team fights. So already you can see this could be a protect the Jinx kind of composition coming out for them. They are going to be against Twitch, though. And we have already seen the terror that is Twitch and Grizzland. Even though we lost, we're still doing crazy, crazy amounts of damage.
Yeah, and in those team fights, like hitting everyone with the rat-a-tat-tat, which is now called, can do so much damage. And at the very end, picked up that triple kill and was so close to picking up the quadra. And that was all just off the back of the amount of raw carrying power that Twitch can bring in with the late game carry. But another couple picks have come out, Ziggs and also Fresh, and Ziggs is usually something that may be banned out, along with Kale, in fact. So there's lots of top-tier picks coming in from N Faculty, which RoughNeX were quite happy to go against.
Okay, so this is also interesting because I was thinking Lulu more than likely going to be support because of the Kale pick. Nope, they've gone for Thresh. So that suggests that you're going to have Ziggs in mid and Kale top?
Yeah. That's confusing.
Which leaves Lulu potentially in jungle.
Interesting. We'll have to see what they decide on doing. We'll have to see for the last pick to illuminate the rest of the lineup, but it's nothing's really jumping out at me at the moment. It may even be Kale AD carry.
It could potentially be that. And this is the thing, again, we were talking about teams trying to pull things out and catching the opposition off guard. And who knows, maybe this is one of those times to do just that. Although, as you said, all our questions will be answered with his fifth pick. However, Zillion is going to get locked in Fiero. And we do know this is one of his main go-to supports. The guy is incredibly versatile when it comes to supports. And Zillion with Twitch, it works.
Yeah, it's definitely a curveball as well. There's not many supports who have that in not only their champion pool, but choose to go with that in the tournament as well. So going against a Zillion, a lot of these players won't have experience against that, how to play against that in laning phase, and also in the rest of the game as well. Like Zillion knowing when to focus down someone and then stop basically when Zillion's ultimate is on them is not a playstyle you're really used to.
Yeah, that's very true. And you can see now they're hovering over the potential Lucian, which is Cedrian's most picked AD carry. So that has answered some of those questions. It won't be Kale AD. After all, Prombear is their top laner, and he is currently on the Kale. They're going to switch it over, and okay, Kale in jungle. That does make sense. Lulu at top is going to harass Irelia pretty painfully. I'm not sure if that's going to turn it into a lane switch up or not.
Yeah, so Kale jungle makes a little bit more sense from what we were thinking. It's like Lulu jungle really isn't something we've seen a lot of. But Lulu top, however, we've seen it a lot in the LCS, of course. and is a pretty strong champion, pretty strong pick. Just performs the same role as the mid lane in terms of being a lane bully, having that kind of bruiserish style as well, being a little bit more tanky and offering that steroid as well in terms of the extra. They haven't been able to do any prep, even like CS practicing in like a bot game or anything. They've just been sitting here waiting for this taunt to resolve itself, and we should be getting in game right about now. So right onto the rift, finally into this one, Metas, and then we have a pause. Of course, I don't think that could have been any better if you were trying to set up Comedy Gold, but RoughNeX is in the blue corner. They're kind of frozen at the moment, as you can tell.
You jinxed us. You jinxed us so hard with that hype.
Yeah, there's not even the jinx in this game, man.
I know, that's the worst part. But this gives us a chance actually to look at the picks.
Yeah, because now we can see them.
Yes. So now we can actually talk about the picks and how the composition is going to work. Speaking of picks, you got Lulu.
Hey.
Smooth segue right there.
Nice.
We were wondering in the picks as to what the comp was going to be because it was left kind of open. Now, Kayle Jungle. Let's talk about this because it's not a pick that you see a great deal of. Sure, you may see it in solo queue and things like that, but when you're talking about ranked and when you're talking about tournament setting, Kayle Jungle doesn't come to the top of the list for me.
Yeah, we were talking with Stress actually just a couple seconds ago, and he was saying it's more like a solo queue thing.
Yeah.
And that says to me, well, are these guys a group of solo queue players, or are they a group of players who have been together a lot? And if they're bringing solo queue tactics in, okay, that's all right for maybe like the first couple of rounds, but do you have something cohesive and something that is really down to the meta, or is this the new meta? We don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm very curious as to see what the build's going to be like and how ganking is going to be, because all you've really got as Kayle is Reckoning.
Yeah.
That's it, and it's not guaranteed. Well, when I say it's not guaranteed, it is. Once you've targeted someone, it's going to hit them. What I mean is, it's not a stun. It's not going to instantly impact somebody. It just slows you. And for a lot of the champions that they're facing off against, when you've got Irelia, who's going to be very difficult to lock down. Okay, Twisted Fate may be where they're going to go for, but look at his summoners. Ghost and Flash. Like, he doesn't really want to be opting for kills in the lane. He just wants to be as difficult to kill as physically possible until his ultimate's up.
In the bot lane, though, Twitch and Zilean are very squishy. Twitch doesn't have a natural escape apart from stealthing up. That takes a couple of seconds. Zilean doesn't, again, have an escape. Has to wait until level 6. Has the extra speed boost, but can only really use that on one of those guys. Unless he's going to drain a huge portion of his mana pool to use the rewind and try and speed them up once again. So bot lane may be where we see the jungler put his most attention on the Kayle jungle. As you mentioned, it's just Reckoning. It's just the speed up as well and the heal from Divine Blessing. And that's your lock. Pre-bot will be starting on the blue buff, and see if we get the buddy system again, and it appears not. Looks like we're going to have the old standard lane matchups. We have the duo lane, both in the bot lane, and the one-on-one in the top.
Which is interesting because something you mentioned before was Zilean being very squishy, in particularly the early game. And we mentioned this earlier as well, that we weren't sure if we would see a lane switch up coming from Twitch and Zilean, if they would instigate that. They're saying, nope, we're comfortable in this 2v2. Gonna have to play safe again, similar to last game, which went horribly wrong for Crystalline because Lucian picked up the double kill straight away. But they're going to play safe, and then around level 6, especially when you consider that Zilean can just resurrect Twitch, they can go ham. They can go super, super ham.
It's going to be very difficult to deal with in the bot lane, but so are Zilean bombs. It's point and click, and there's some damage, and you can't do anything to stop that from happening. The only good thing you can do in terms of counterplay is move away from your AD carry, or move away from your support. And there's your counterplay. They do, however, lock them up in the bot lane. The Mountain throwing down some damage, looking to crush some skulls in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that all came off the back of them hitting level 2 first, so they could really punish both Jeebus and Yarrow at the bot lane. And you saw the death sentence come in, and that pretty much signified a chunk of damage coming out. So let's see how which can actually bounce back from this, because already it's not looking too good.
Not at all, and the bomb harass is just mounting up onto Cedrian in the bot lane. That's all we can really comment on at the moment. In terms of kill potential, Zilean is kind of scripted in how much damage he does. It's point and click and do some damage, and you can kind of tell how much it's going to do. And you see the gank coming in from Lee Sin. Kind of getting a little bit worried here, Metas, because shaking quite a lot of it.
I don't know if you can hear that, there's like really loud music that's vibrating, but a bot lane, Jeebus is going in hard. Cedrian's took a lot of damage, Death Sentence comes down, actually misses both players, and Jeebus going in there. Exhaust comes down from Mountain, trying to keep his AD carry desperately alive as Contaminate was already popped. And for all we were saying about Twitch suffering there, bounce back with a vengeance.
He was very, very close from death, though. He was so nearly in range of the turret. Takes one tower shot, takes another auto attack from the mountain. Boom, he's dead. That was maybe a little bit too close for comfort, but either way, they do harass him out of lane and will mean they have the extra little bit of CS to get over their opponents.
Yep, Jeebus is going to be recalling right now. So I'd expect... I mean, typically Twitch is going to go Blade of the Rune King first. It's going to be Bilgewater Cutlass into the Blade of the Rune King, and then that's sometimes where Twitches differ. You saw a Ghostblade last game. Some Twitches will go for Static Shiv or Phantom Dancer. I'm quite interested to see what Jeebus goes for this game. There's
also a solo queue build where you go like Sword of the Divine and, and like Infinity Edge and just look to blow someone up, that kind of stealth bomber mechanic. And quite literally in this game, because you have Zillion, so you can literally stealth bomber and go the full shebang, as it were, and that will actually add to the burst. That is one of the main tactics that we've seen coming out. One of the reasons why Twitch has been so strong is you can just sneak up on someone, a squishy target, assassinate them with the extra attack speed. Steve taking some damage in the top lane from Lulu. And then you'll have the bomb damage on top of that, which you will 100% hit because you're right on top of them. That's a lot of burst, even very early on into the game.
Yeah, it certainly is. So you can see that Lee Sin, again, was hovering around mid. Nothing really kicking off there for him, though. And Ziggs, if his Satchel Charge is available, it's unlikely going to get a kill on him. Even with the Twisted Fate Gold card afterwards, it's not likely. They're going to be harassing him, stopping him from recalling, which in turn will allow Shadow to push a bit harder. But again, this has been, when you compare it to the last game, a very slow one. That being said, though, all the action seems to be at bot lane. Now, Cedric's going in. Death Sentence has landed. Instant heal comes in from RoughNeX. So Summoner has been popped.
Very, very low will be them dropping Yarrow, and he will actually opt to stay in. They both decide to pop those pots, and they stay in against Cedrian in the mountain, and he is on 100% HP, and Cedrian is also in pretty good shape. So this may be risky because that last hook almost resulted in the kill. The next hook will result in a kill.
Definitely, without the heal available. As Death Sentence going to be going back. They sniffed out Lee Sin, was prowling. A good idea from Lee Sin, but the execution not quite there. Because when RoughNeX are that low, you can bet your bottom dollar, as you said, the Death Sentence is only a few moments away. They want to try that one mid lane. Here comes the Satchel Charge on Shadow. There is both of his summoners burnt as well, both Flash and Ghost.
Interesting that he popped the Ghost as well, considering just the Flash would have gotten him out. It was maybe one of those panic moments, just like hit all the panic buttons and red alert and jump back to the turret. So both of those summoners being down could result in the kill next time they go around, because if you burn the Flash, okay, well you have the Ghost to run maybe to the bottom side or the top side of the lane, but he no longer has that. So that is actually fairly detrimental to Shadow in the mid lane. So far no kills, but the summoners have been burnt, and we have kind of set ourselves up for a potential first blood.
Yeah, overly reactive play, I would say, from Twisted Fate there, because as you said, completely correctly now, he's very vulnerable to ganks. And I would expect that Kale is going to camp mid, just to try and keep him there, because if you camp him, if Twisted Fate goes lurking with Destiny, you can then push his tower. And then you get free objectives. So I would definitely expect to see Kale occupying mid for the next few minutes.
And from Lee Sin's perspective, we've been talking about the Kale jungle and how it doesn't really have very many gank lanes, but in the top lane, I guess that's one of the places he can go. But as we encroach the level 6 area, Lulu's going to have Wild Growth, great disengage potential with the Whimsy, also with the shield and the Glyph Lance to slow them down. Very difficult to gank. Mid lane, Satchel Charge, already mentioned that. And in the bot lane, there's been a lot of action, but with Lucian being so mobile and the Lantern on top of that, however, we do have some action in mid lane. We do have the Destiny coming in, and Shadow will be chasing after Ziggs. Only landing a couple auto attacks, lands the Q as well. Will Pre-bot go all the way? Kale shows herself, and they do decide to back off, not wanting to go all the way.
But Siggy actually burned nothing in the process, so he has got nerves of steel, and obviously knew that Kale was coming down as well. So yeah, the gank came in, but he's still got both his summoner spells available. He's still going to be a threat to contend with, and he's not a free kill. He also has a Satchel Charge, even if his Flash is down, whereas Twisted Fate has nothing. And he burnt Destiny.
And that's a pretty big summoner, especially when it comes to laning phase, because it's usually the threat of having the Destiny rather than using it, just because if you go for an engage, you have to be aware that it could turn into a 3 versus 2 or 3 versus 1 or even a 2 versus 1 at the top lane. Without that Destiny, they no longer have that. And Ziggs still has pressure to exert. He has the Mega Inferno Bomb, and they both have global map pressure in that sense. And Ziggs is still up.
Yeah, bot lane, something we haven't really kept too much attention on over the last few moments because all the action's been in mid, but there is a small CS difference coming in, just the 5 or 6 for Twitch. Does have the Bilgewater Cutlass finished off, so nothing new there. And we'll be hoping to maybe rinse and repeat from some of the plays that Chrisland was making in the previous game. Chrisland himself actually had an interesting build. He went Blade of the Rune King first, Ghost Blade second, Infinity Edge third. So I'd be quite curious to see if Jeepers follows suit.
Yeah, and it may have been a choice because of the game as well, wanting to instantly burst someone down, but if that was situational or something that's global among these players, and the bomb lands, and there's the second one, Cedric taking a ton of damage, but we'll go back with the Lantern back to the safety of the mountain, and Lee Sin again was looking for a gang to happen, but really not being very successful. The junglers this game have not really put down that much pressure. Nice sidestep by the mountain just means that Lee Sin's time is just all but wasted.
Yep, Thresh is still yet to hit level 6, although he is very close to doing so. So this is the moment I was talking about where Zilean and Twitch will start to outscale and really terrify Lucian and Thresh. It's right here, right now, and you can see that Jeebus is just having complete control. Lucian and Thresh don't want any part of this lane right now.
And it's all about the Zilean pressure that is in the bot lane, but the question is, how short-lived is that Metas? Because we know he's very strong in the laning phase, we know he has the utility of his ultimate when it gets into the team fights in the late game, but when it gets to super late game, that's just a Guardian Angel. And you're not going to be able to use it multiple times per fight either, even though it has a rather short cooldown, constantly using the time warps. So it's a question of, can they not quite finish it out earlier, but use the advantage that Zilean has and make sure it doesn't go to waste?
Well, again, we are going to see jungler occupying bot. In fact, both junglers are coming down, and Lee Sin is hungry for this potential kill and gank. There goes the rat-a-tat-tat, alongside the poison as well from Jeebus. But again, Lee Sin just pulls back, and actually, you know, Prebot has constantly been around the areas. He's been kind of flirting with the idea of ganks, but always pulls away. And to be fair to him, it's all at the right time. Because Kale was down again. If he goes hell for leather underneath that tower, that could probably backfire.
Definitely have those spider sensors. Is pretty easy when your enemy is fairly smelly. They do have the Twitch down there. They do have the Lee Sin. Prebot just walking through the jungle though. Farming out the camps as well. He, again, just hasn't been very successful in the ganks. Might as well just go back to the jungle and get solid gold that you know will be going your way. And 11 minutes into the game, almost 12, ping did go down by in faculty. And I guess that means they won't be going for it.
This has just been a farming frenzy. Complete reversal to that first game that we just watched. And top lane is something...
The Lulu to be ahead, but Irelia's winning out, and you can see that Lulu is not having a good time. Constantly going in, just landing that standard combo, the Equilibrium Strike, the Blade Surge, and the auto attacks from hit-in style. And that is something that they have to keep in mind on. But Prebot in the bot lane should be able to take down this tower very soon. Now the teleport comes in fact, by Irelia. Nope, not the right place, not the right time.
Yeah, Brondbear coming down, wanted to make something happen. They do keep that tower alive, but I'm not too sure. Now Irelia's going to get free farm again and be able to push that top tower, so they have to commit to either getting Dragon here or pushing the tower themselves.
You know, Brondbear is one of those names where you can really slip up. Some players just want to watch casters burn.
They certainly do. Tick, Trick, and Duck is another one.
Yeah. They are, in fact, alternate now.
Alternate now, yeah, they have renamed. But anyway, Dragon has been started here, and actually going to be really close. If it comes down to the smite, it's going to be Kale that gets the upper hand, and now engaging off it on towards Shadow, who has to back himself away. Cullen comes through, but there we go. Chrono Shift comes out there on Twisted Fate. Mega Inferno Bomb instantly afterwards. Flash Flay from Mountain, huge plays, and they pick up another couple kills. That's a 3-for-0, and the Dragon on top of it.
Well, we had no action for the first 13 minutes, but it was all at once messes. The Dragon going down, those 3 kills to end faculty. Everyone's so low as well. Steve will in turn pick up this tower because the teleport was used by Pronver to go into the bottom lane. But that is a huge goal swing and a big change in this game and in terms of the dynamics. So everyone will be going back to base with plenty of gold to spend.
Well, Irelia did manage to somewhat, I'm not going to say equalize because it doesn't come close, but they did get a tower, which isn't completely terrible. It's a good way of answering back, but as you say, going back, there's Lucian just insta-buying himself a Bloodthirster. Blade of the Rune King is on Twitch, but again, this has been a farming frenzy, and you've got characters across the board that if you allow them to get farm and you allow them to get items, they are going to punish you.
It's true, and It's always been the support. I say always, it's been 2 games, but the Mountain already showing he is an exceptional player. The hooks in the bot lane, the flash play that we saw in the last team fight. Compare that to Heaver as well, who's just doing incredible work on that Nami. Might be the day of the supports here at DreamHack.
They don't get enough love, but they make some incredible plays, as we've seen already in this tournament. Top lane, Prombear has a long way to run if he wants to get back to the Sanctuary of his second tower, but Steve gives up. Chase just wants some of that delicious farm instead.
Yeah, as long as he just shoves him away from the farm and can just freeze it right here, then he's in a very, very good shape. And Prombear, well, with Whimsy, he will be able to get away, but he won't be able to stand toe-to-toe, and that's really where the issues are coming from. Through the laning phase, Steve has been able to 1v1 him from a very early stage, and that is the biggest kind of table turner in the top lane. And even though it doesn't look like much now, you will see the difference that makes in a couple minutes' time.
Well, let's have a look who's in prime position in a couple minutes, because the position of the teams as well, especially with these comps, you've got Twisted Fate with his global, well, semi-global ultimate now. If they can manage to outmaneuver and Faculty, they can still make the plays. And it's the same position that GSI were in the first game as well. They have the scaling champions that can pull it back. There is no 2 ways about that. Jeebus has decent farm. He's beating Lucian right now by about 20. So again, get him rolling and he will be able to carry a team.
Prombear and Ziggy in the mid lane, putting some damage onto the tower, but Twisted Fate has a very good wave clear, as does Ziggs. People have said just by having Ziggs in the game means that the game will go on for a little bit longer because of the wave clear, no matter if you are behind. I guess the same thing can be said for Twisted Fate as well. One swing of the gold cards and you wipe out most of a wave, and you have someone else to add to that, like the Rat-a-tat-tat from Twitch as well. Then you are going to be eliminating those waves, and very good anti-siege, and it's kind of one of those underestimated parts of a team composition, being able to hang on.
Very reminiscent to me of Season 2 Anivia. That
Yes.
was just anti-siege all day long. You saw CLGEU constantly getting around the 60-minute mark with Froggens and Anivia, so similar ballpark for Ziggs. I completely agree with what you're saying. Jeebus, again, just going to be pushing this, and again, the players are just content to wait potentially for the next dragon. That seems to be what they're doing. They just farm, 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 get an objective, farm, 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 get an objective.
We look at the teams, and we said last game, which was very right, that they were late game orientated, and we did see it go to a fairly late stage of the game. Mid lane, however, again, it will be cleared out, getting that last auto attack off, but they do have some pretty good scaling. Kale in particular, of course, Lulu, and the bot lane AD carries will probably scale fairly similar, but Twitch will have the slight upper hand, as we saw last game as well, kind of point in case right there. So we'll see if they go for that kind of option. With the Twisted Fate, you kind of expect them to be maybe a little bit more proactive, but these lanes would be very difficult to gank, as we mentioned, from both sides.
Yeah, I think that's the key point there, that, you know, in hindsight, maybe they wouldn't have gone for a Twisted Fate. Maybe something like Orianna might have been nice here with an Irelia and a Twitch as well, but, you know, you got to deal with what you've been given, so Twisted Fate is just going to try and keep pushing out this mid tower. And that's what I was talking about before, that if you do have 2 or 3 people pushing mid, Twisted Fate can't do what he wants to. He can't roam across the board, he can't be proactive, as you say. So I've got to say that, in fact, you're playing the matchup perfectly.
We asked the question kind of towards the start of the game, and definitely in Champion Select, what Kale would be building from the jungle. Because we didn't, of course we know exactly what they build in the top lane, the mid lanes, when we see those types of Kale players, but in the jungle has opted towards the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith, which is not an item we see all the time nowadays, is not one of the most common pickups. It's also gone for the Fiendish Codex, so there's a multitude of items you could go for after that, but also the Stinger. So it will be going for kind of the more conventional build, in the sense that you'll pick up a Nash's Tooth, which is the core item on Kale. So I'm excited to see where this goes from here.
I'd be surprised if it wasn't a Nash's Tooth next. Yeah, to be completely frank. I think it is going to be that, and then just look to be as much of a nuisance in team fights as possible and drop the intervention when needs to be. Here comes Destiny to top lane though. Oh, Prombear just about survives. Doesn't even need to burn his flash. But there we go. Shadow comes in from the backside. Q was landed as well from Prebot. Prombear is very tanky, but there's a long way for him to run. And there we go. Prebot picks up the first kill for RoughNeX.
They lock him down. There was nowhere to go. The flash was burnt by Shadow, and in fact both the Summers, once again, every time he goes for these interactions, he burns everything. Okay, it resulted in the kill, but has left him very, very squishy and very vulnerable. But can they convert this into the dragon as well? That is the question. It is currently live. This is the first dragon of the game, and with Pronbear being down for the count, he does however have teleport, and he's up in 2 seconds.
Yep, so they are going to be starting off on the dragon, and that's precisely the reason they went in. But Cedrin is pretty much by himself, stalling them away, and in fact, they've made everybody from RoughNeX back on out. They don't have the players right now to potentially deal with this, so we do have this strange standoff on the dragon itself. Here comes the Q, that's going to be Kale picking up the dragon. So, and Faculty get the second on the bounce and do edge 2.6k in the lead.
Oh yeah, that was the second dragon. That was my miscall. Yeah, and that was the second smite coming in from Kale as well. They're going to Inferno Bomb will just clear out the wave, and there's 1 minion remaining to see if they can try and just kite this around and juggle the aggro, but they'll take a small chunk out of that. But meanwhile, Cedric takes a tower in the bot lane, even up to 1-on-1. And now both the dragons, you can see, has really affected the goal totals, plus some of the farming difference, especially in the mid lane, making up for the top lane disparity. Almost 30 farm, encroaching 40 farm as well from Ziggs, but that's to make up from the top lane with Irelia already being ahead of Lulu.
You know what's crazy? This time last game, Nexus Tower had fallen. It just goes to show how different each matchup is in League of Legends. And only the 3 towers have fallen after 21 minutes. Very close on goal, very close on items as well. But again, Steve has gone for Triforce first. Last time, if memory serves me correctly, it was the Zephyr next.
Yes.
And then the Randuin's Omen. So I'm quite curious to see if he just follows the same build path.
Actually, I think he went for a defensive item first and then started to
Giant Spell. He went Giant Spell.
Yeah, and then heading into the Randuin.
That's right, yeah.
See if he does that this game as well, but there's more AP on the board from Ziggs, Kale, and Lulu. And there's a lot of gold to play with from both of these teams. 1,000 on pretty much everyone on the upper half of the scoreboard right now. 2,000 from Lulu, and it's not felt the need to go back because pretty much just free farming out his turret. Doesn't have to go back, but that will be, if not like a large chunk of the big item, a whole big item finished off.
So ward coverage once again is just littered all over the river, but both teams are just happy to farm this one out. Now, I've got to ask you, going forward with this same mentality, who do you think this favors going into the kind of 30, 40-minute time frame?
I think you've got to look at the Kale and how that becomes a hyper carry going into late game, but then again, you see the Twitch. We've already seen that in action today. We've seen that over the last couple of weeks in multiple different tournaments and matches, that Twitch can single-handedly carry a game with the rat-a-tat-tat coming through, hitting multiple members and critting everybody. That can be very dangerous. Plus Irelia, the ticking time bomb champion, a lot like Nasus, a lot like Jax as well in the top lane. So you've got to keep those in mind, but I do feel that End Faculty are maybe a little bit more centered around Kale doing well. They have the Lulu and they have the Ziggs, who both offer a ton of damage, but Lulu is about helping the team, and if Kale's doing well and Kale becomes unstoppable, then she's never going to die. The wild growth, the intervention, that's a Kale that's not going down in a hurry.
Yeah, I guess there is a danger of lacking damage if Kale doesn't do well here. Because, as you say, Lulu's more of a support champion. If Kale's not getting the kind of items to make a mark in this game, then you're looking at pretty much Ziggs and Lucian to carry all of your damage, whereas on the opposite side, in fact, Zillion can even do quite a bit of damage as well with his bombs. So that's definitely something for them to take into account. Obviously, already Lee Sin is starting to build towards more tanky items. He's got himself a Giant Spell and a Null Magic Mantle. Cedric's been caught in the mid. Although, actually, if the Hunter becomes the Hunted, it's going to be the Revival, though, underneath the tower. This is a really strange play, I've got to say. And Jeebus gets cleaned up. Over-aggressive, and greed proved to be his downfall.
That was a very strange play. It was like playing Lemmings, where it just like walked into the tower and fell off the cliff right there, Metas. And I'm not entirely sure. It was the stealth bomber mechanic. He had the bomb on top of him. He went for the extra attack speed, but now the AD carry down, and Faculty make the very easy play and just push down the mid lane. Chunk away at the turret. Don't quite pick it up. Maybe they'll wait for the rest of it. Looks like the answer is going to be no, but in the top lane, Steve did take the opportunity to also push up this tower. Lulu is counterpart in the bottom lane. I guess he was just getting a little bit antsy, you know? Nothing's been happening for the last like 10 minutes. Just wanted something to happen.
There's always that danger, isn't there? That you kind of get a bit impatient and you want to make plays when there really isn't one there. And I feel that was over confidence as well on Zillion's ultimate, assuming that I'm okay, I can trade this one off, and if I die, no problem, I'll come back again. But the problem is, if you respawn underneath their tower, then no, you're still going to die. You're just going to die twice.
He's still dead, yeah. More of like humiliation than anything else. You don't get extra gold, but you know, in a couple of seconds, you're definitely dead, and everyone just crowds around the corpse, ready for it to go down again. Jeebus is just going to carry on farming, even though he did lose that kill. Doesn't really matter in terms of his damage potential, didn't really fall behind, but it's just kind of a drop, a ripple in this game. Drop in the sea.
And hopefully for RoughNeX, that gave them the kick up the backside to say, okay, let's not do that again.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really get punished. Yes, they got their mid-tower damaged pretty heavily, but they didn't lose objectives off it. Whereas if you fast forward the next 10, 15 minutes and he does it then you got problems. Then it's a Baron or it's maybe even an inhibitor falling down.
The other stark difference and stark contrast from the first game is that RoughNeX aren't significantly ahead. They were significantly ahead pretty much all the way through the last game versus GSI. In this one versus nFaculty, they've pretty much always been on the back foot, and that has just made them not want to make any proactive move at all. We mentioned how GSI were always being reactive, always being very slow with their map movements, and RoughNeX were always very fast. But on the reactive, RoughNeX just choose to do nothing.
It looks as well, you know, we're putting a lot of emphasis on Kale, that Hurricane is coming up next by the look of the build, so that would be a pretty straightforward build that you'd expect for Kale. Although Jungle Kale is not something either of us have seen a great deal of. So again, you can see the players just kind of lurking around. They feel that Dragon is on the horizon. We've seen it nFaculty pick up both thus far in this matchup, and they'll be looking for that hat-trick.
You know, in contrast, in terms of damage, actually hold that fort because the Destiny comes out and he will try and pick onto the Kale, and the card follows all the way. The hook comes through, but didn't quite pick up the kill. Shadow is in a dodgy situation, however, has to flash over the wall. Culling comes across and he will go for the engage. Steve offering some more damage, and the first kill goes down. Sedgwick will be dropping down. Mountain is still on the front lines. Can the hook land? Yes, it will. The instant cleanse comes in from Prebot, keeps him healthy, and this is still the next Dragon to go to nFaculty. Can RoughNeX do something about it?
It doesn't look likely unless Lee Sin can pull off a huge play. Does still have his smite available. Here we go. No, Kale will be shutting that one out. And also, Mikhail's from Azilian keeping Lee Sin alive. That was a clutch play right there, because there's no doubt Prebot was dead had that cleanse not come in. So another Dragon, and also the blue buff on top of that to Siggy, who, by the way, is farming up a Storm. 260 just about at 27 minutes.
That's because we've had such a slow game. Yeah. Everyone's been farming. Everyone's been free farming. You get to this level, you don't miss CS. You get 6 out of 6 every time. You hit that cannon minion, and that just means you have a ton of CS. And this actually favors Kale so much. It's like having another solo laner, because typically the jungler will not get the same amount of CS as laners. You know, we've got that kind of taxing the lane style that VTLC in America will go for, but we don't always see having the same amount of impact in terms of damage. And as a result, Lee Sin's gone for a kind of damage-orientated build as well to keep up the pace with Kale. So, see how that works out. But the longer this game goes on, the more items that get picked up by that hyper carry. And already, there's the Ruinous Hurricane, there's the Nash's Tooth.
And they can kind of afford to do that as well. Just going back onto the point you made before about Lee Sin going more oriented towards attack damage rather than tank. Because they got Zillion, and because they have Aurelia as well, with that Resurrection coming in, you can afford to go a bit more damage base. You don't have to worry about going full tank. And the kind of utility Lee Sin that a lot of people go for after the initial 10-15 minutes. So again, that's going to be something to watch out for if you progress on. Can RoughNeX nuke out either Siggy or Cedrion before the wild growth and intervention come down? If they can, they should win the fight. But if they jump in and it's a good, well-placed wild growth intervention, then watch for the team fight to bounce back around against RoughNeX. A lot of this is going to come down to, in my opinion, how Judas positions.
What has to be said about these team fights is they will be explosive. The amount of tension that is being built up right now in terms of the amount of items that's going to come out, no one has really had like a test of strength. No one has had like a 1v1 to see how strong KO is, or how strong Ziggs is at the moment, or even how strong the Twitch is from Jeepus. No one has seen a test of strength. You get into these team fights, it's like, whoa, Twitch just took off 50% of my HP with an auto attack. Where did that come from? So no one knows how strong the other is.
And the other thing as well, that nFaculty haven't necessarily been outmaneuvering RoughNeX. It's just they've got to pick Went Dragon 3 times. And RoughNeX aren't learning from this. They're not seeing the pattern here. They're not saying, okay, Dragon's up soon. We know that they've got a kind of roaming comp that's very fast at catching us. let's just play a bit more safe, and let's make sure we can contest that dragon. They're always a player down whenever dragon's up.
The last one was kind of force-fed because of the Twitch coming through.
Yeah.
So that will definitely not happen again, or you would hope that it wouldn't happen again. So that at least means from an end faculty, they have to find another way to find a pick. So they have Fresh, they also have a lot of damage behind them as well, but it won't just be given to them on a silver platter.
And it's strange as well, right, that they've been the ones getting picked when they've got Twisted Fate on their side. Yeah. I mean, you'd expect it to be the other way around, that Twisted Fate gets a pick and then transitions into a dragon, but that's just not been the way it's gone so far. So RoughNeX, again, they're going to have to be under the cosh here. They're going to have to outthink and faculty, try and outmaneuver them. And I think, again, dragon is going to be huge.
And the more we're talking, literally item after item is being picked up, and we haven't seen any of that used only against minions and monsters. Ziggs has picked up the Deathfire, not the Deathfire, the Death Cap, the Fiend's Unholy Grail, the Void Staff, and Sorcerer's Boots at 30 minutes is fairly impressive with the few amount of kills that have gone down with 300 CS at this stage. Ziggs is very good at farming in the mid lane. Just have to see how much damage that will do versus an actual champion.
That's your thing as well, that Ziggs is so good at clearing waves, that if you try and split push against him, or Twisted Fate goes down to bot lane as he is right now, and he can Destiny back towards mid or something like that, if Ziggs sees a huge, you know, pile of minions, he's just like, okay, you know, put his hands together and say, yum yum, I'm just going to throw my Mega Inferno Bomb down to bot lane or whatever, and pick myself up, you know, 10, 15 CS for free. So, again, it's what you're saying before, that he is such a good anti-siege champion, and he's picking up all of the gold right now.
We're hitting a stalemate because both teams are very good at wave clearing. Ziggs, you just mentioned, and you broke that down, and Twisted Fate, Wildcards comes out, you pick up the entire minion wave. Steve, you just saw the Transcendent Blades come out, minion wave, gone, in an instant. Crownbear can do exactly the same thing. Now that a couple items have been picked up by Kale, specifically this build with Runans, you clear the wave pretty much instantly. You see how fast he takes those camps. He'll do the same to those minion waves. Piercing Light as well. They just have so much wave clear that you don't really see a chance for siege or an opportunity opening up because the minions are never really hitting there. They're always being neutralized.
Yeah, so actually Lulu going for the Morellonomicon as second item and already has the Arm Guard, so that would suggest that it's on his Hourglass. So wants to be cutting out all that health regen right now, maybe trying to target towards Twitch to stop him in team fights, ripping everyone to shreds in the back line. It's another thing that could be quite interesting as we go on here. 6 kills at 32.5 minutes. I mean, that pretty much sums up this match so far. It's been very tentative, very farm-centric. Both teams, I would say, are kind of on the edge of their seats, kind of nervy, and they don't want to just make any all-in plays that backfire and lose them an inhibitor or a Baron.
And the longer we wait, the worse the penalty will be for losing a fight. You lose 5 members at this stage, probably lose 2 towers, an inhib, maybe the Baron as well. And now that we're heading towards the Dragon, the Destiny comes up and he may well go for this fight. Again, that's the 3rd in a row that Kale picking up the Dragon, but we may have the fight coming through. Mountain does not land the hook, but Obvious takes some damage and does some damage in return. We go for the full-on engage.
Yeah, it's going to be Zedran actually at the back lines again, but there's Steve jumping on top of him. Pre-bot should be falling as well from Obvious. In fact, Zedran comes in and will clean that one up. Now engaging on towards Steve, but he is just going to back on away. So again, they get the Dragon and they get the kills afterwards, and that has been in Faculty's plan this entire game.
But here's what we just said. You lose a couple of members, you lose your team, and then that snowballs into more and more objectives because you just don't have the manpower. And they are so strong at this stage. They are running through that Baron. There's nothing really that RoughNeX can do about it. Siggy, so confident, bounces over the walls like, oh, I'm just going to recall before this because we know they're not going to go for it. Jeebus takes the opportunity to go for the bottom tower. We'll pick up that consolation prize, but you're seeing huge objectives taken after every fight now. If anyone dies, then you lose something permanent.
And at that time around, then Faculty did just literally outmaneuver RoughNeX. They were there at Dragon before RoughNeX responded. In doing so, they picked up the Dragon, and then they were in prime position with all 5 players as they clenched fist to just smash through RoughNeX. And he saw that Zedran, for most of that fight, was by and large left alone. Yes, Steve jumped in a couple times, but he was easily peeled away with both Zillion and also Twisted Fate throwing in his gold cards. And that's the key thing. If you can just keep yourself alive as Lucian, good things will come. And that is just clinical play from him there in the last fight.
And you can translate that to most AD carries. You stay alive, it's all about the positioning, it's all about staying alive to the very end of the fight and outputting as much sustained damage as you can. Cedric in the mid lane chimes in with the rest of his team to take down the turret, and now they are on the offensive. They feel like they have enough of a lead with the Baron just to power down, and look how fast the tower's falling. Almost in a split second it drops, and Jeebus, one bomb takes him down, 25% HP. They walk in, they smash and grab, and they get out.
Yeah, welcome to Kayle with a lot of attack speed, and also Lucian as well with his double shot passive. He can just fire out his Ardent Blaze, he doesn't care, double shot. He can fire out his Piercing Light, double shot. And then on top of that, Kayle is just incredibly fast at cutting through towers. So again, that just harkens back to what we were saying before, that if Faculty play their way right and they play their composition to its maximum strength, they can just shred through towers. And RoughNeX, I've got to say, they've always been 2 or 3 steps behind throughout this entire game.
RoughNeX are biding their time, but the question lies, when do they stop giving up objectives? They haven't tried to contest anything, and if they lose another pick right here, Prebot, he will get the ward jump and should be okay. They get the ward as well, so some more gold go over them like they already have enough of it, but it's constantly been RoughNeX either getting caught out or just not contesting objectives, and the question is, when do they start? They just lost Inhib and didn't do anything about it. They've lost Dragon after Dragon. This is the first one that they've really fully contested. They sustain heavy losses. Where do they call it?
And the other thing as well is that RoughNeX have never in this game been able to dictate the pace of the action. And that's where their comp excels. Twisted Fate, great at dictating pace, great at getting picks, turning that into kills. Irelia, great at split pushing, great at dueling, can also jump in from the side and suddenly just massacre everybody. But they've not been allowed that opportunity because Faculty have just been constantly applying that pressure, and it's not been alleviated. This is going to be another tower that's sticking now, and they're in just prime position.
It's been objectives back to back, the Baron, the towers, the inhibitor, and now they're just going for the top one. Do RoughNeX fight? They have to do something. They cannot just sit behind their towers, behind their buildings, just watch them crumble. Because that's exactly what's happening here, Metas. They have, again, not contested. Now the super minions are flooding into their base. Another inhibitor goes down. Shadow pokes away, does some damage. One bomb again, chunking through the health bars. There are 2 inhibitors down. Last game, we saw 2 inhibitors go down, and it was tooth and nail. It was GSI going after every single fight, hanging on. This time, it's just been them just looking at them and saying, right guys, how's it going? You want another inhibitor? Sure.
Yeah, just have it for free. And that's the thing, at some point RoughNeX are going to have to make their final stand. They're running out of objectives. They're literally in their base, backs against the wall. And the next push, they're going to have to fully commit to. I think one of the determining factors there is that there is still Baron on Faculty, or at least there was before when they were pushing the inhibitor. Maybe they're going to wait until Barons run out, and then they're going to try and make their last hurrah, you know, they're going to try and make their last play. That's their best chance here, but they need a clinical team fight. If it's like 3 for 3 somewhere around that ballpark, that's not good enough anymore. They've run out of objectives.
Baron did just wear out like maybe 10-15 seconds ago, so here it's crunch time, honestly, from RoughNeX. This is another objective falling in the bot lane, and there's no point getting hyped about it because it's just been one after another. This is the last inhibitor turret. Cedric is so confident, he just was right in front of the rest of the team. And he knew, they're probably not going to engage on me, so I'll just be at the front of my team, it doesn't matter. And they are so confident, that might be their downfall. With their carries on the front lines, they're perfectly happy with that. But one good pick, one good gold card onto Cedric, that cuts their damage significantly.
The thing is, it's going to have to come from Shadow, whereas last time GSI came back, it had the cocoon from Elise. This time it's like gold card or bust, pretty much. Death Sentence lands on Shadow. Instant Mikhail's Crucible, but here comes the engage afterwards. Mega Inferno Bomb lands in the middle, smashes down 3 or 4 players. 2 have already fallen on the side of RoughNeX, soon to make that 3. In fact, Twitch comes back and gets himself a kill. Look at how incredibly low RoughNeX are, and they've also got super minions knocking on their front door.
It's just not looking good. The flood of minions is coming through. Jeebus drops, he gets another kill in return, but it's just nothing. And 10 and 5, and Faculty just played a slow game and pick up this win at 39 minutes. A very, very smooth victory.
Yeah, smooth, mechanic, well-oiled machine with their objective pushing, and that's pretty much what RoughNeX, in fairness, lacked last time around. Yeah. They had those weird lapses in concentration where they weren't going for the jugular, and I've got to say, off that performance and Faculty,